beautiful people. Listen, I want to tell you something. So, I remember being in college when I was 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, I was in college. And I remember writing a paper and losing the paper and being completely and utterly devastated and having to rewrite the paper all over again and just having a complete meltdown. And so last week I was reading Jeremiah 36th chapter and I ran across this story of when God told Jeremiah to write these messages for the people of Judah because he was sending out warnings. They were basically being disobedient, they were doing anything they wanted to do. And he sent out these warning messages to tell them, listen, you guys have to get things together, right? And so Jeremiah called for his secretary, Barak, to come and write the messages that God had given to him. And so Barak took his time and wrote the messages. And so Jeremiah then tells him, go to the temple during the season of fasting and read them out to the people of Judah. So maybe they'll hear it, maybe they'll get them in their spirit, and maybe they'll turn from their ways and obey God. So Barak, being obedient, does this, and he goes out into the temple room and he starts reading the messages. And there's a young man, Micaiah, there. He hears them and he goes to tell the temple officials that Barak is reading these messages, and so he takes Barak to the temple officials and they say, where did you get these messages from? And he says, hey, Jeremiah got them from the Lord and I'm just reading them out. And they're like, oh my gosh, they become alarmed about the messages. So they say, you all go hide, but we're going to take these messages to the king. So they took the messages to the king, and the king read the messages, and he began to cut the scrolls and throw them in the fire as he read them. Now, the messages were warnings. They were warnings to get your life together. Obey me. I'm sending an army. I'm sending the Babylonians. There's an army coming to destroy this land and to take some of you off and to kill others of you. Get it together. God was giving them warnings because of his love, and they continued to do whatever they wanted. So the king is reading all of these warning, all of these messages that God has given them over and over again. And Jeremiah's secretary, Barak, has written all these warnings and messages. And the king is cutting the scrolls and throwing them in the fire. He's cutting them, throwing them in the fire. And he and his attendants didn't seem to learn. Now, a faction of them said, hey, what are you doing? But he was like, hey, go find Jeremiah and Barak and arrest them. But God had already hidden them, so he couldn't get to them. And so God goes back to Jeremiah and says, listen, write all the messages over again. I instantly thought about my papers in college and how you have written all of this stuff. And then God says, write it again? One, it shows you God's love for his people. That he said, you know what? They tore it up. They tried to arrest my prophet. Write it again. I'm that much in love with them that I want them to know that this is what is about to happen to them. I want them to heed the warnings. So write it again. And two, it shows you that God is persistent. He was like, do it again. And this time, if you read that last verse of chapter 36, he says, and add more to it. Listen, y'all, we're at a time when the warnings are evident. The writing is on the wall. We need to be telling people not that the Babylonians are coming to exile us or to kill us, but we need to be telling people that Jesus is coming back. And they may take your words and throw them up or kill them or try to arrest you, try to kill you, try to burn what you say, try to burn you. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. And we have to continue to tell the message. And at the end, he says, add more to it. So if they disregard you the first time and they disregard the words that God is giving you, add more to it and keep on giving them the warnings. Jesus is coming back. Y'all be blessed, be encouraged, be inspired, live in the red. You are loved and forgiven. Thank you. Peace out. Love in. Bye-bye.